Okay, boys and girls, let's open up our inquiry journal to page 82. We are going to analyze this source and we're going to go ahead and look at envelopes, talk about my address, that means your address, and then we're going to go ahead and look and see how people send envelopes to other people and how do the mail carriers know where it goes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go over these three things that we need to use when we are analyzing a text. So we're going to inspect. We're going to read, look at the title. What do you think this text will be about? My address is the title. If you said you think this is going to be about my address, then you're right. Okay. So underline words that explain what an address can tell us. Circle words that explain what an address needs to show. So as I read this, you guys can underline words that that explains what address can tell us, and then circle words that explain what address needs to show. Okay, so this is what we can do while we're reading. Then we're going to go ahead and find evidence. So we're going to reread, how do pictures help us understand parts of our address? We're going to go ahead and look at these pictures to help us understand parts of our address. Okay, so here we're looking at our evidence, what we have in front of us. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and make a connection. And then why is each part of an address important? What might happen if you forget to write part of an address? So we're going to learn more about our addresses and how we need to write our addresses on envelopes. I want you to pay attention because it's really important. If you don't know, all your parents get letters, all your parents get receive letters and things from people, or maybe bills. So make sure that you guys pay attention, because sooner or later you might want to send a letter to someone, or you might want to get something from a person. So you might want to have to know how to do your address correctly if somebody ever asks. Okay, so let's go ahead and read it. My address. It's fun to get a card in the mail. How does a card get to you? The sender needs to know your address. An address tells where people live or work. An address gives an exact location. An address should have a number to tell which house or building. An address should also tell us what street or road or house or building it's on. It also needs a city, a town, or a town. It needs a state too. I don't know about you guys, but you need to know the city or the state that you guys live. It's really important. Otherwise, if you forget one of those two, whoever sends you an envelope will not get to you because you're missing two very important facts. So let's go ahead and continue reading. Jack is sending a card to his friends. He wrote each name of the first line of the address. So in the beginning, he wrote the first name. Ben lives in a small town of Auburn. He lives in a quiet road. His zip code tells us where his town is located. Kylie lives in a busy city. Her address has an apartment number. Kylie's building has many apartments. So it's really important to know, because if you live in an apartment, you cannot forget the number of your apartment, because you can send someone your address, right? And if you forget to put your apartment building number, the envelope gets to your apartment. But now, since you have a lot of people living in apartments, they wouldn't know where that letter is going because there's so many different apartment units. So you need to make sure that you're very specific. Okay, so once we've already read this, I'm gonna reread it again. And I want you to pay attention, because I want you guys to go ahead and tell me, you're gonna record yourself telling me what Why is it important to know each part of your address? And what happens if you forget to write one part of your address? I want you to think. So we're going to read it one more time and then we're going to explore. My address. It's fun to get a card in the mail. How does a card get to you? The sender needs to know your address. An address tells where people live or work. An address gives an exact location. An address should have a number to tell which house or building. An address also tells what street or road a house or building is on. It also needs a city or a town. It needs a state too. Jack is sending cards to his friends. He wrote each name on the first line of the address. Ben lives in a small town of Auburn. He lives in a quiet road. His zip code tells us where his town is located. Kylie lives in a busy city. Her address has an apartment number. Kylie's building has many apartments. So Kylie has to make sure that this is Kylie, that she writes the apartment number. So the part of an address tells the postal workers where to deliver the mail. Let's look at these envelopes. We're going to go ahead and find the evidence. Here, you need to write the person's first name. So wherever you're sending something, you write the person's first name. So if I was sending it to this little girl, I'm going to write her name. I think it says Marita Lee. So I would write her first name. Then, second of all, I would need her exact house address, the exact numbers in her house, and the street. So, for example, this little girl lives 600 Park Street. That is the number of her house, 600, and the street is Park Street. Now, you need the exact number for your house, and then you also need the city. What city does this little girl live in? It says Montrose. So the city needs to go on the bottom. So you have to put the city and then you put the state. The state is California. So that is where she lives, in the city of Montrose in the state of California. Now you see these special numbers right here? Those are that's a what is it called? A post, my goodness, I can't remember um there we go, the zip code. Those are the zip code, that especially in each area there's a zip code for everybody who lives there. So for example, in my house there's a zip code. The school's zip code is 91335. Okay, so it tells me the area because it's connected to the city. So this little number, the 91020, is the zip code to that little girl's address. So that number tells the postal worker where it's actually going to go. And this helps the postal worker get this mail to this little girl's house. So I want you to remember, what happens if you forget to write one of these parts into this letter? What do you think will happen? Will it get to you? Hmm. If it's missing something, would it get to you? Okay, I want you to think about it because that's really important. Now, you're going to go ahead and record yourself, and then you're going to record what do you need in order for you to write an address. Now, you're going to tell me what you need. Ms. Rojas just went over it right now. And then you're also going to go ahead and tell me, why is it important that why is it important to have each part of an address? Okay. Now, I want you to also tell me, if you forget, what might happen if you forget a part of this address? What do you think will happen? Go ahead and record your response and upload it into Schoology.